him.
I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Schmack-o-macabre, it's time for the only news that matters on Black Sabbath Sunday. And Zakk Wylde suggested that the Dio era of Black Sabbath felt like a whole different band and reflected on his involvement in Sabbath's upcoming Back to the Beginning final show. Most people think of the first 8 studio albums as a definitive version of Black Sabbath. Sometimes even 1976 Technical Ecstasy and 1979, it's 1978. Never Say Die gets excluded. I'm reading this, by the way. However, the band has helped define heavy metal and went through several more exciting evolutionary stages. Although not accepted as the band's original glory run, the Dio era certainly earned its place in history and helped bring new fans to the band. Given the more polished material on Heaven and Hell, Mob Rules, and Dehumanizer, often served as the medium through which young people discover Black Sabbath every day. You gotta also add Heaven and Hell, The Devil You Know. Zakk Wylde, who went on the archive worldwide fame with Ozzy Osbourne, told Guitar Magazine Jonathan's Graham in a recent interview that the first time he saw Black Sabbath was with Ronnie James Dio at the mic. He said, "The first gig I ever saw was Ronnie James Dio on the Mob Rules tour in Philadelphia. It was mind-blowing. It was just amazing. That was like the first real rock concert I ever saw." Asked whether he felt Dio era was still Black Sabbath, the guitarist offered, "Well, they changed it to Heaven and Hell from 2006 until 2010, till when Dio died. I mean, it's its own thing. It really is. It would be like Ozzy calling Blizzard of Oz Black Sabbath. It's its own thing. It sounds like a whole different band, which is a compliment, you know what I mean? You know, when Ozzy left, it was just like a reset button for both of them. Because when Ronnie came in the band, Tony's riffs and production and guitar tone, everything changed. It was like the whole new band. And then the same thing with Ozzy, with Randy Rhoads and Bob Daisley and Lee Kerslake. Just like all new creative ideas, and it was just fresh. It was fresh and new ideas for both. And it's amazing. Both of them were like reborn. Zakk Wylde is set to appear at the star-studded Black Sabbath reunion farewell concert scheduled to take place on July 5th at Villa Park in Birmingham, England, which also features guest appearances from Metallica, Slayer, Guns N' Roses, Mastodon, Tool, and many, many more. And, you know, part of that many more is Sammy Hagar Belcher. And you know, just a side note, Sammy Hagar Belcher sucks. Anyway, asked how and when he found out about the event, Zakk Wylde said, "I think I found out about it just like everyone else. Hopefully I'll go see Oz when he gets back to the States after we get done with the Zakk Sabbath thing. I'll bring the acoustic over there and go through songs and whatever he wants to jam on. I guess he wants to do an Ozzy set and then a Sabbath set. We'll see." Asked whether he'd do any Zakk Sabbath style songs at Villa Park, the guitarist said once again that he hopes the performance will make Ozzy want to get back on the road. Ozzy can't get back on the road. Anyway, he says, "Whatever Ozzy asks me to do, if he says, 'Zachy, make me another ham sandwich,' no problem. Hopefully Oz has a blast. He sings great." And then Ozzy says, "All right, Zakk, let's fire this machine up again and let's go on the road." Hopefully that happens. I mean, Ozzy was singing a little bit of Mama, I'm Coming Home when we did the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He sounded great. Oh, man. You know, Ozzy's not going to tour. I mean, this final show, they're already billing it as he's only doing bits and pieces, and he ain't going to be standing up. He's going to be sitting down. And if you ask me, if you get Ozzy up on that stage sitting down, they should bring back this contraption. Hell yeah. And since Ozzy can barely sing, use some tapes. Have that big contraption lip sync. That would be awesome. I'm not the biggest fan of the Ultimate Sin album, but that show was awesome. It was cool, and I loved the beginning where Ozzy came down from the sky on that big Ozzy, and it was just so super cool. I actually really enjoyed that. But yeah, Dio era Black Sabbath, totally different than the 70s Sabbath. 70s Sabbath was organic, loose, just very human-like. Where with the Dio stuff, it became perfection. Everything picture perfect. That wasn't allowed back in the Black Sabbath days because of Bill Ward. Bill Ward's drumming wouldn't work on that Dio stuff. That's why Bill Ward's playing on Heaven and Hell is very in the pocket. It's not Bill Ward. Bill Ward has said he doesn't remember recording that album. So I don't know the whole thing, what's up with that, but it's a totally different band, you know? And yeah, okay, call it Black Sabbath, whatever. It doesn't really bother me, but it's not Black Sabbath. To me, it's more Heaven and Hell. A lot of people would say, oh, Heaven and Hell is really a Black Sabbath album. Yeah, I agree, but that Black Sabbath is not Black Sabbath. I'm sorry. It is Heaven and Hell. Should have been called Heaven and Hell from the start, but maybe that would have been a mistake. But you know what? Maybe not. Because in 1980 was a whole different world. And you had all these bands, new wave of British heavy metal, springing out, and you could have thrown Heaven and Hell in there in the mix instead of Black Sabbath Heaven and Hell. I don't know, man. I mean, the jury is out and all, but I think it would have done maybe not as good because Black Sabbath, the name, sells a lot of records. But I think it would have done, like, you know, better than Saxon and probably at the level of Iron Maiden in 1980 and British Steel. But, yeah, it's a totally different band, just like Ozzy. Zakk made a good point. Ozzy, when he left Sabbath, did that shit sound like Sabbath? It was totally different than what he was doing in Sabbath. You know, and they were both amazing. So yeah, for them to break up and then form this, it was a blessing, actually. You know, we got Randy Rhoads, we got Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell, Diary of a Madman. Man, that is some good stuff. And shit, I even like Bark of the Moon a lot, you know? So, but all totally different than what Black Sabbath was. And man, I was a fan of that early Zakk Wylde stuff. I loved Pride and Glory. Especially loved Book of Shadows. That was like my favorite album of the 90s, you know? And I liked, you know, a few of those Black Label albums were pretty good. And then, you know, Order the Black, it was good, but then, you know, a lot of ballads. And then after that, everything I heard was just the same old same. I couldn't get into any of that stuff. But I still supported Zakk, and when Zakk came down here with Zakk Sabbath, my favorite band, Black Sabbath, with Zakk playing, and of course I'm going to go and I'm going to enjoy it. Well, I didn't. I mean, he played well, it was a good show, but he has this dickhead security guard that grabbed my fucking camera that I wasn't even using at the time. It was in my pocket. While everybody around me has their cell phone out recording everything. And then he took the tape, and it took me forever to get the camera back. And then when I finally got it back, he took all the film out, you know? It's like, what the fuck, man? Yeah. And I don't think there was any pictures I took. Maybe one or two of Zakk Wylde, because this guy came grabbed my camera about 3 songs in it, and I did it during the first song. It was just ridiculous. And then I just left there with a sour attitude going, you know what, fuck this guy. I'm not supporting Zakk Wylde no more. But, you know, I mean, if he would release something great, then I would support it. But everything I've heard, the Black Label shit, and I don't even like the Zakk Sabbath where he redid the first album. It doesn't sound right to me. Yeah, musically it's all right, but that voice, it bothers me. I guess maybe it bothers me now because of the security guard. I don't know, but I heard Book of Shadows the other day, and I also want to say Book of Shadows 2 was awesome as well. But, you know, after that, you know, it's like, But anyway, hey, what do you all think? Do you think Black Sabbath was a different band and Ozzy was a different band? Because if you think so, then welcome to Earth. And thank you so much for watching The Only News That Matters. Please subscribe to my channel if you haven't and ring that little notification bell. I would totally appreciate that. And like the video. It's good for the YouTube algorithm. So stay frosty. Listen to Black Sabbath and smack 'em a cob.
Farewell and adieu to you fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu, you ladies of Spain. For we've received orders for to sail back to Boston. And so never more shall we see you again.